All right, what's going on, everybody? So I'm here with a good buddy of mine that I've known since 2013, Sergeant First Class Jeff Dawson. He is a EOD Tech in the United States Army, still currently serving today with about 12 years of service. He's worked in both conventional EOD fields and also Special Operations Forces, where he still is currently, with the 28th EOD Company. Yeah, with the 28th EOD Company, Airborne. He was kind enough to come bless us with his presence and conduct an interview to let us know what it's like to be an EOD Tech in the United States Army. First of all, though, do you want a drink?
Sure.
Let's see here. You can use that. All right. See if you can figure out what it is. It's Crown Peach, man.
I was gonna say, what is that smell?
It's the good
so
stuff.
familiar, dude. Jeff Dawson. I was born in Colville, Utah, Christmas Day, 1986. I ended up getting a job at a Walmart distribution center. I worked there for 2 months or something. I started working there with a dude, and he was like, "I'm joining the Army. Like, do you want my recruiter's number?" I'm like, "Sure, whatever." I called up the recruiter, went and took the ASVAB. They gave me like a list of jobs that I qualified for. So I talked to him a little bit about EOD and like what the job was and kind of what they did, and I was like, man, that sounds like something I would like, something that will challenge me, and something I feel like I would excel at. I had no idea the amount of like problem solving, which I'm good at.
Yeah.
And also the reading comprehension. And one of the things that I really liked about the school was that you actually would read something in the publications and then you would go perform it. So your reading comprehension has to be decent, which mine always sucked. Going through school was like my worst subject in school. I hated English. I hated reading. My reading comprehension sucked, but I was able to read and apply mechanical things.
Okay.
Which I have a very mechanically oriented mind, so that made things a little bit easier for me.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So graduated EOD school, January 2010. I got stationed up at Bragg, my first duty station, only duty station, in February 2010. I got templated to go with 722nd EOD Company, which is a conventional unit here at Bragg. I spent 3 years with them, did deployments to Iraq. I spent over a year in Iraq with that unit. Came back and decided, it was time for something else.
Yeah.
I had known about the 28th for a long time. I'd known about Delta, but my buddy and I decided, hey, let's go try out for the 28th. We'll see what happens. So we tried out. I ended up getting picked up.
Wait, what's the E28?
So the 28th EOD Company is a unit that was stood up, and its sole purpose is to support Special Operations Forces.
Okay.
It's basically a Ranger support unit that was stood up, which, the Rangers decided that there was an overwhelming need for EOD soldiers within their formation. So they got airborne status, or were able to jump with the Rangers and all this other stuff, which in the beginning, was a little bit different because there weren't any airborne EOD units.
Right.
Like the capability wasn't even there.
Okay.
But after I got to my first unit in 10, I wanted to go to Ranger School. I wanted to go to Air Assault.
High speed.
Yeah,
high speed
I was motivated. I was in good shape. I wasn't broken.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff. So I wanted to go to Ranger School. I tried getting all the prereqs knocked out, but it ended up never happening. I did go to jump school though. June, July, I graduated the week after 4th of July at Airborne School. And I didn't actually jump again until after I joined the 28th. So it was 3 years had gone by from my last jump at Airborne School to my first jump with the Rangers. And that was like, I don't know, I probably should have told them that it was my first jump out of Airborne School, but I was like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be that guy, like the inexperienced guy. I was door jumper though, that was pretty cool.
Of course you were.
So I assessed for the 28th, and I got picked up, went through the training pipeline, they decided, to keep me and put me in a platoon, so I got slotted with their platoon. I did 4 deployments with 3rd Battalion before I went into operations for a little while, and then I did 3 deployments with 1st Battalion.
Okay.
So
shit ton of deployments.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you had that many.
7 in Afghanistan and
Wow.
over a year in Iraq.
Okay.
I was sitting at like 36 months or something deployed.
36 months of deployment time. Wow. So I'm sitting here with Jeff, Sergeant First Class Jeff Dawson, and he is a little too modest to tell you these sorts of things, but he's one of the most highly decorated EOD techs in the Army today. He has a Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Purple Hearts. One he got pretty recently, within the last year or around about a year and a half, and has kind of been there, done that for, if not all, most things EOD wise.
I recently got a Purple Heart. I was actually shot in Afghanistan, paralyzed from the chest down.
Yeah.
Initially couldn't
Paralyzed from the chest down.
Initially couldn't move anything. I lost all control of everything below T1. It was touch and go. Like the doctors didn't know if I was even gonna make it. The odds of me ever walking again were not in my favor. They were.
I mean, it's amazing because now you're just walking around. Not to say it wasn't a journey, because I know it was.
It's been a hell of a journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we'll talk more.
Yeah,
we have another episode. You guys make sure you catch the next episode for that. We're gonna actually get more into the story of Jeff Dawson and some of the things he's been through personally. But this episode is more for to answer your questions about what it's like to be an EOD tech. So we're going to get into the questions that the community asked and that they want to know about, and we'll start off with question 1, and that is, what made you decide to become an EOD tech in the Army?
I was hanging out with a couple buddies of mine that were in the Marine Corps previously. Those are the guys that got me kind of turned on to EOD and like what it entailed and like all the specifics. Where I had a buddy that was a combat engineer. So he had a pretty good idea about, what they did, and he got me up to speed, on all that stuff. So that's initially why I decided to become EOD.
Okay, was like the thrill of just something that was, dangerous a part of it, or?
I mean, there's a possibility I would get to play with explosives.
Yeah.
Which I had, for as long as I can remember, been drawn to that sort of thing.
So next question, what is the EOD path like? Because it's been known to be one of the most difficult schools in the military. What was it like for you, and what advice can you give for anybody looking to pursue that?
Yeah, so like I also said in the bio, I struggled a little bit. I feel like I could have been more prepared because I really wasn't sure what I was getting myself into other than the opportunity to touch explosives. Yeah. The school itself, I think that they've changed something so where you can take the study material home. But like for me,
because it's classified.
Yeah, majority of it is. But we could never take anything home with us. It was everything stayed at the schoolhouse. So essentially for me, like what I did to process all that was that when I wasn't in school, that was the last thing I thought of. Okay. Like try not to let the school consume you. Okay. So on the weekends I was partying my ass off. I was still young. I was 22, 23 years old. I was a PV2 or whatever, so I wasn't making great money. Yeah. I got promoted to a PFC after a year.
You go to basic first though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where's that?
I went to basic at Fort Leonard Wood.
Fort Leonard Wood, okay.
Yeah.
And then straight from basic, do you have to go to like a selection or anything like that?
No, during basic training they come out and they do a like a fitness test. Like they'll do a bomb suit and a mop test. So you get you get in the bomb suit and you go do a bunch of different stuff, and then you get in the mop suit and they make you run a mile, and then make you do a bunch of dexterity type.
Okay. So kind of a selection, problems. But it's like a
it's basically just like a go or no go.
Right.
Like
if you're gonna be able to handle
assessment, like are you claustrophobic? Can you physically carry this 100-pound projectile, in a 100-pound bomb suit? If there's dudes coming from previous units, just reach out to their EOD recruiter. They'll get them lined up with a company on post that they can do OJT with. I think OJT for prior MOS guys is a great opportunity for them to get to know things.
Yeah, get their foot in the door a little bit.
Or at least know what to expect before you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've heard EOD schools like in 2 phases?
Yes, in the Army it is 2 phases.
Okay.
So when I went through, the phase 1 was down at Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. They moved that up to Fort Lee, Virginia.
Okay.
So phase 1 will be up there. Phase 2 is down in Florida,
Right.
at Eglin Air Force Base.
That's when it starts getting nice.
Yeah.
Hanging out in Florida. And how long are the phases?
So I was at phase 1 from February to April.
Okay. So 3
So
months.
2 months.
2 months.
And I was in Eglin from April to January. And I only rolled out
Oh, so that's long.
2 classes.
Okay.
So 9 months or so in Florida, 2 months in Redstone Arsenal, and then 4 months at basic training.
Okay.
Whatever that was.
So in total, coming off the block,
A year and a half.
a year and a half. But if you wanted to go from being prior enlisted or something like that, it's about a year-ish.
I mean, yeah, you could go through in about a year,
Okay.
less than a year.
Yeah. Okay, so now you've made it through EOD School, and now you're just now you're EOD Tech, and I think your first assignment you said was at Fort Bragg. So what's your daily training schedule like, and what kind of training are you afforded as an EOD technician in the Army?
So the EOD spectrum is like so wide that you can literally train on something different every single day and never be 100% proficient. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, because you're just doing so much.
Because there's so many different things you have to be ready for.
Yeah, you're doing ordnance stuff, with like guided missiles and rockets and projectiles and landmines, IEDs in the States, stateside IEDs, conventional ordnance, you're doing IED stuff, you're doing chem bio, like chemical munitions, biological like hazards.
Yeah.
You're doing nuke stuff, so you're dealing with you're dealing with nuclear ordnance or like fissile material.
Yeah.
So how do you process this stuff? Or you just have to be able to switch gears and attack the problem the right way at a moment's notice.
Right.
It is what you make of it. Like if you want to train hard, then train hard.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the EOD units get bogged down with like all the other extracurricular bullshit that we have to do, like online training, freaking area maintenance.
Area maintenance, that's like cutting grass, pulling weeds and stuff.
Area beautification, whatever.
Yeah. Well, everybody in the Army does that, Well, so that brings me to another point. Like, so what's the difference? What's the biggest difference between being on the conventional side of EOD, which it sounds like you're deploying alongside conventional units? Basically, I mean, so real quick, what does that look like?
So, like when I was in Iraq, I was supporting 82nd. We were primarily on call for QRF. My team was.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
So, like, IED would go off in town.
Yeah.
They would spin up QRF. We would go out and do.
And it would take you like 6 hours to get there.
Not us, man. not us, dude. The 82nd guys were trying to get us to move down with their stage at the QRF meetup link-up spot all day.
Wow.
24 hours a day, just so we could get out there quickly. Because we were there, ready, spun up, within 15 minutes of getting the notification. It didn't matter if we were fucking asleep or not.
Yeah.
You're
up. Out the wire.
Talk runner would come to my room, wake me up, and I would be in the truck within 5 minutes.
Just ready to go.
Like I would
defuse IEDs.
I would throw on some shit. I would keep my kit and all my shit other than my weapon in the truck.
Okay. So everything was staged, ready to go, and that's like your typical conventional style EOD mission.
Yeah. So I mean, you could be on QRF, you could be on route clearance packages, you could be on the dismount patrol.
What do you think about the movie Hurt Locker?
I mean, over dramatized, just like
Hollywood.
Sure. I mean, Hollywood really took that one and ran with it, you know?
Yeah. That was your experience is like on the conventional side. What is the difference between conventional and soft?
So the biggest difference that I saw between SOF and conventional EOD was the mentality of the people that I was surrounded by.
Okay.
Obviously, in the 28th, they have an assessment and selection. You have to be actually selected to become a member of the unit. You know for a fact that everyone that's in that unit is there because they want to be there.
Yeah.
You have to be ready for any, like, especially with special operations, you have to be ready for anything at all. It could be chem, it could be bio, it could be nuclear, it could be anything.
Yeah. So you've got 7 months of deployment time, or not 7 months, but you got 7 deployments.
2 years in Afghanistan.
Just with soft units.
Mm-hmm.
So you got more soft time than you do conventional time as far as deployments go.
Yeah.
Like give us an example of what a mission looks like working alongside a soft element.
Our sole purpose on the ground is to make sure the assault force gets to where they need to go and back without stepping on or tripping any IEDs.
Right.
So that's our sole purpose on the ground.
Well, that's because it's more surgical. These missions are more.
Yeah, it is. But
precise.
you can mitigate a lot of the threats prior to even going out on mission. You know, so one thing that I liked about working with SOF versus the conventional side was that when I was working with the conventional side, everything was just a reaction. You reacted to whatever happened. You know, and you do that sometimes occasionally with soft units, but primarily you're developing strike packages and you're taking the fight out to the end.
Right.
So it's a completely different dynamic. You're limited to what you can carry, you know. So you're not taking a robot out on target. You're not taking a bomb
Yeah,
suit.
you're walking the whole time.
Yeah, you're not taking a bomb suit because that shit is heavy.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't effectively like react to contact with a 130-pound robot.
Yeah.
I'm carrying all my EOD stuff, which I typically weigh about 100 pounds more than I normally do going out on target. And then you throw another 30-pound Aiden litter bag on top of that. You know, so I'm carrying all the med supplies. I'm rocking 2 dump pouches, one for my chem lights, one for my metal detector. I've redistributed all my demo to like my cargo pockets and my rope to my cargo pockets, you know, so it's like...
So if you're trying to work with SOF as an EOD tech, you're ready to actually put in some work.
Yeah, you have to put in work, you know, I mean, depends
it's not
on...
gonna be easy.
No, it's hard. It's hard on your body.
I remember you out there just having being loaded up all the time.
Dude, physically demanding.
Yeah.
Typically, like in a conventional setting, people would find the IEDs for you, and then you would come out and take care of them. In the soft, or at least our side of the soft community, we train to lead the element out
And make sure their path is clear.
Yep.
So they can get onto the
Yeah,
objective.
so I would be in front with a team leader, and I would be right there in the front of the formation, you know, clearing the area everyone would be walking to.
Yeah.
So I feel like I did more work in the first month I was in Afghanistan than I did the entire year I was in Iraq.
Okay.
Even though I didn't run anything like EOD pertinent, so to speak, it was just the act of being busy, really.
Right.
I
So the
feel
tempo
like-
is a lot higher in
Yes.
soft than it
Yes.
is. So you see, like regardless, you can expect a higher tempo if you're working with EOD soft. But no matter what, even if you're conventional EOD, you have to be ready to deploy at any moment because it just depends on.
I mean, with the conventional units, they have a road to war. They have like an actual like path. We do as well.
Okay.
But
the
it's
training
just,
cycle.
It's completely different.
Okay.
Yeah. So like the unit will come down on like templated orders for a deployment. They would receive their road to war. They would go through all the prerequisites and all the training requirements for deployment. For that. But with the 28th. It's a lot different because it's a constant turnaround. Like you get back from deployment, you have like 2 months where you call that your admin cycle, where you would take care of like anything admin wise that you need to take care of. The next 5 months would be your training cycle. Like you would be TDY, going to like explosives courses, electronics, chem bio, shooting, driving. Because at the outstations they're doing like dudes are in driving around Hiluxes and shit.
Yeah.
So we're doing evasive driving, all these other courses, driving and shooting. That typically you wouldn't have access to.
All right. So if you were EOD and you wanted to get into special operations EOD, what would you need to do in order to do that?
So there's a couple different ways you can do that. Obviously, one is you could fill out an application to go to the 28th. You could fill out an application to go to Delta support it, which are the big ones. There is still different SOF communities that need EOD support. The SF community, like they have been recruiting EOD technicians from conventional units to support their ODA mission. Those guys don't typically have a formal training selection or pipeline unless you put yourself in a position or talk to a sergeant major and sit and tell them your intentions, like, hey, I want to do this or I want to do that. Your best bet to getting in the SOF would be to submit an application to the 28th or Delta.
Wow, so directly to it.
Yeah.
There's no that's crazy. Okay.
Reach out to the recruiter.
So you gotta want it.
You have to want it.
Yeah. What were the hardest parts of your career, and what did you do to get past those?
So the first hard part in my career was my first deployment in Afghanistan in 2013. We went to go hit this target in Afghanistan in Kandahar, and they had an entire IED belt waiting for us there that we had no idea about. There was a couple suicide vests that went off that night. We lost a K9. We lost 4 Americans. And that was, obviously the first time I'd ever seen a dead body in combat. It was a shitty night. It was very difficult for me to get over that mentally. I had no decompression time after that trip. I came back, I had 2 weeks of leave, and I signed straight into ALC, and I was gone for 2.5 months. And then I came back straight into a training cycle, and I was gone for another 5 months, and then I deployed for another 3.5 months, and then I came back, and it was like, man, I've been gone for 1.5 years, pretty much 2 years, since I joined the unit. I wasn't really home until after my 14 deployment. So from the very beginning of 2013 to the very end of 2014, I was just gone. And then, fast forward to my deployment in 2019, I was shot and almost died.
Yeah.
And then that began my recovery to learn how to walk again.
Yeah. Wow. And we're going to go more into those specific instances with some episodes in the future, so make sure you're staying around for that. What is something that you wish you had done earlier in your career?
I wish I would have pushed a little bit harder to go to Ranger School. I wish I had pushed a little bit harder to get the training that I feel like I needed. But to be honest, I've been pretty blessed with good leadership and everything else. So
I feel like it's a tough question for you because I feel like you've had a pretty fruitful career so far.
I feel like I have, but I wish I would have pushed to go to some of those schools earlier on in my career when I had the time.
Right.
Because that just never came to fruition later.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's some things you just don't want to put off. I mean, you mentioned Ranger School. I put off Ranger School till I think it was year 11.
Yeah.
So just about where you are now, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I understand that. I feel lucky that I was able to get it at that point, And then, but never, I say that all the time. Never wait to go to something like some sort of training or do a school that you want to do, especially if you have the opportunity now. Do it now while you have the opportunity, because you might not always have the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then you just looking back on it. What's the best part of being EOD in the Army?
I like that it has pushed me to do things to push me outside my comfort zone. It's kept me motivated. I want to do more. I want to do better. I would say the best thing about EOD is that I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's essentially kind of where I'm at. It's afforded me opportunities to look at things in a very wide spectrum. You know, between chemistry. I love chemistry in high school. Science, biology, which I wasn't ever big on biology, but you know, math. Putting all these things into operation. You know,
yeah,
being like skills, being able to do things with my hands, being able to think through a process, or being able to read something and apply it. You know, like those are all things that I really have enjoyed about my career in EOD.
If there was anything that you could do different, looking back, is there anything you'd do a little differently?
I probably would have tried out for Delta.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's pretty much it. Jeff, I want to thank you for coming in and answering those questions for us. I'm sure a lot of you guys got some really good information out of that down-to-earth interview. If you guys have any other questions whatsoever, just drop it in the comments, and I'll reach out to Jeff personally, and we'll get an answer for you. Besides that, that's all we got. We'll see you on the next one.